How old is the Earth? Well, science will tell you that it is 4.54 billion years old, plus or minus 50 million years. And Conspiracies by Hans will be delighted to hear that we do that by radiometric dating. The oldest fragment of Earth we've ever dated is a shade under 4.4 billion years, so it has to be at least that old, doesn't it?
How's it going, guys? Contrary to what we've been told over and over by the mass media and the modern scientific establishment, there are numerous geophysical and astronomical clocks which point to a young age for the Earth, solar system and the universe.
Oh no. Good day to all of you and welcome to another episode of Tinfoil Tuesday with me, Simon Dan. Yes, that was a YouTuber called FreedomInGod who apparently knows of a variety of natural clocks showing us a relatively young Earth. I wonder if this evidence is going to be enough to prove his claim. Here we go.
In fact, such young Earth indicators are actually in the majority. But because the scientific establishment and the media are biased against a creator, and because evolution requires an old Earth to appear even plausible, the public at large is rarely told about the mounting evidence that contradicts the belief in an old Earth and the many holes in evolution.
And that's why we are here today, to see this mountain of evidence. Please continue.
The scientific evidence actually points to a young Earth that is about 6,000 years old, which would support the interpretation of 6 literal 24-hour days of Genesis creation as recorded in the Bible. Everyone is looking at the same facts. We are looking at the same fossils, we are looking at the same layers of sediment, we are looking at the same radiographic dating of rocks. No one disputes the facts. The difference comes from how these facts are interpreted, because no one was there to see what happened. We cannot directly observe and measure history. We must look at what we have in the present and follow that evidence to wherever it leads us.
Hopefully, not down the garden path, eh?
And the evidence for a young Earth far outweighs billions of years. While there are many evidences for a young Earth, I will only give 5 evidences that the Earth is about 6,000 years old and not billions. But I encourage you to look more into this as well.
Okay, great. Let's see what you've got then.
The oldest living tree on Earth is either an Irish oak or a bristlecone pine. If we assume a growth rate of 1 tree ring per year, then the oldest trees are between 4,500 and 4,800 years old. The fact that these trees are still alive and growing older means that we don't yet know how old they will get before they die. It also strongly suggests that something happened around 4,500 to 4,800 years ago, which caused the immediate ancestors of these trees to die off. Note also that it is possible for trees to produce more than 1 growth ring per year, which would shorten these estimated ages.
He is of course right about the oldest living tree. However, there are some examples of living things that are far, far older than 6,000 years. This is a quaking aspen. It belongs to a colony of trees known as Pando. Now this colony can be found in south central Utah. The individual lifespan of a single tree is around 100 years. However, every single tree in this forest is connected by one single root system. They are all clones of each other. The whole forest is one single living organism, and it's thought to be around 80,000 years old. Let's go one better though. There is, believe it or not, a creature that is biologically immortal. This is Teratopsis dohrnii, the immortal jellyfish. Once in adult form, the immortal jellyfish can transform themselves back into their juvenile polyp state, and they can do this again and again and again and again. We don't know how long this species has been in existence, but it belongs to a class called Hydrosa, a class that's been around for hundreds of millions of years.
The Earth's magnetic field is decaying at a rate of about 5% every 100 years. This means that about 1,450 years ago it was twice as strong as it is today, and 2,900 years ago it was 4 times as strong. Therefore, assuming that the rate of decay has been constant for the recent past then only 10,000 years ago, the Earth's magnetic field was 128 times as strong as it is today. So strong that the amount of heat produced would have prevented life as we know it from existing on Earth. At the very least, this data suggested that life on Earth is not much older than about 10,000 years, which fits in perfectly with the Bible and the young Earth.
We've been studying the Earth's magnetic field for around 150 years, and yes, it is true that it has decayed in that time. However, that does not mean that it is normal rate of decay. The magnetic field strength fluctuates all the time, and given the huge amount of time the Earth has been around, for a small drop like this may mean nothing at all. Of course, it could also mean that a magnetic pole reversal is imminent as well. When we look at the volcanic rocks that have been produced in the mid-Atlantic ridge, due to the tectonic plates slowly moving apart, we can see that the magnetic direction of the minerals in those rocks show a different polarity depending on the age of them. This is evidence that the polarity of the Earth's magnetic field switches over time. In the last 10 million years, it's flipped 4 or 5 times per million years. The last one was almost 700,000 years ago, so we're due one.
Carbon-14 is produced when radiation from the sun strikes nitrogen-14 atoms in the Earth's upper atmosphere.
Hi Hans.
The Earth's atmosphere is not yet saturated with C14. This means that the amount of C14 being produced is greater than the amount that it is decaying back to N14.
Which is correct for right now, but not in the past. The rate has fluctuated in the past 10,000 years. He was right about how carbon-14 is produced, and it does decay back to nitrogen-14, but there is absolutely no evidence to suggest that the atmosphere will ever be saturated with carbon-14. Carbon dioxide makes up around 0.4% of atmospheric gases, and of all of that, only about 1 or 2 atoms of carbon-14 are present for every 1 trillion.
It is estimated that a state of equilibrium would be reached in as little as 30,000 years. Thus, it appears that Earth's atmosphere is less than 30,000 years old. In fact, the evidence suggests it's less than 10,000 years because it has not yet reached equilibrium.
The evidence suggests? What evidence? You can't just say the evidence suggests and then move on. The evidence suggests that I'll become a millionaire in the next 5 minutes.
And also, carbon-14 dating actually provides some of the strongest evidences for creation and a young Earth. Radiocarbon cannot remain naturally in substances for millions of years because it decays relatively rapidly. For this reason, it can only be used to obtain ages in the range of tens of thousands of years.
Which is still older than the age you are saying the Earth is. So, what's your point?
Scientists from the RITE project examined diamonds that evolution is considered to be 1 to 2 billion years old and related to Earth's early history. Diamonds are the hardest known substance and extremely resistant to contamination through chemical exchange. Yet, the RITE scientists discovered significantly detectable levels of radiocarbon in these diamonds, dating them to thousands of years.
Radiocarbon dating is used to date specimens that were once alive. Diamonds have never been alive, and the levels of carbon-14 contained in a diamond would not have the very stable atmospheric ratio of C12, C14 like an organic specimen would have.
The gravitational pull of the moon creates a tidal bulge on Earth that causes the moon to spiral outwards very slowly. Because of this effect, the moon would have been closer to the Earth in the past. Based on gravitational forces and the current rate of recession, we can calculate how much the moon has moved away over time. If the Earth is only 6,000 years old, there is no problem, because in that time the moon would have moved about 800 feet or 250 meters. But most astronomy books teach that the moon is over 4 billion years old, which poses a major dilemma. Less than 1.5 billion years ago, the moon would have been touching the Earth.
The moon is 384,400,000 meters away. Now let's assume that this rate of migration has been the same since the moon's formation. Of course it hasn't, but for the sake of our man's argument, we will. So that gives us a migration of 0.04 meters a year. Now let's take our age of the moon, 4.5 billion years, and multiply that by our rate of migration, and that gives us 180 million meters. The current distance is 384,400,000 metres. Let's take away our total migration distance of 180 million metres, and that gives us an initial distance of 204,400,000 metres. 204,000 kilometres. Now, the moon was likely caused by a giant impact from another planet hitting Earth. Because of the gravitational forces of Earth, the debris field that remained wouldn't have allowed the moon to coalesce into a mass if it had been inside the Earth's Roche limit. This is the distance from a large body that allows a smaller body to form without being pulled apart by gravity. The Earth's Roche limit for the moon is around 9,500 kilometres, so our initial formation distance of 204,000 kilometres is entirely plausible. Now, that was just lazy maths, mate. At no point in our history would the moon have been touching the Earth.
Today the Earth's population doubles every 50 years. If we assume only half of the current growth rate and start with just one couple, it will take less than 4,000 years to achieve today's population.
We didn't start with one couple though, did we? Because otherwise, we'd have ended up with ancestors that would have been rampantly incestuous. So that ruins that one, doesn't it?
These are just a few of many more, such as the agriculture is too recent, comets that disintegrate too quickly and can't last more than 10,000 years, oil that is still under pressure, although after about 10,000 years little to no pressure should be left.
What? Where did you get that from? Complete gibberish.
Also, the sun is shrinking at a rate of 5 feet per hour. That 11,200,000 years ago, the sun would have physically touched the Earth, and yet they claim the sun is billions of years old.
If I went down to the beach and noticed that the tide was going out, and then postulated that this means all of the land must have been covered in water at some point in the past, and that eventually there'll be no water left at all, what would you say to me? The sun naturally shrinks and grows over time. In general though, it is in a state of hydrostatic equilibrium, meaning the thermal radiation pressure pushing outwards from nuclear fusion is matched by the gravitational pressure pushing inwards.
Also, in recent years there have been many findings of wondrously preserved biological materials in supposedly ancient rock layers and fossils. One such discovery that has left evolutionists scrambling is a fossilized Tyrannosaurus rex femur with flexible connective tissue, branching blood vessels, and even intact cells. According to evolutionists, these dinosaur tissues are more than 65 million years old, but laboratory studies have shown that there is no known way, and likely none possible, for biological material to last more than thousands of years.
A quick bit of research on this one will explain how this was achieved. It was discovered the iron in the dinosaur's body was the reason for this. Coupled with ideal fossilizing conditions, this marvellous piece of chemistry has allowed tissues to be preserved before they could decay. This one gets even better though. When the tissue, which was a form of collagen, was analysed, it was found it shared similarities with bird collagen. Evolution confirmed. Oof.
Could it be that evolutionists are completely wrong about how recent these dinosaurs lived?
No. To summarise, there is insurmountable evidence that the Earth is over 4 billion years old. You cannot seriously entertain the idea that it isn't. Well, that wraps up another episode of Tinfoil Tuesday. I have been Simon Dan, and I want to again thank you for watching. Please do like and subscribe if the feeling takes you, and I shall see you all on Friday, where finally Mr. Eric DeBay gets some attention. Until then.